Human history is a book with entire chapters torn out. You are about to see the evidence that can fill those voids, uncovering a past far more complex and fascinating than any textbook suggests. This journey through 25 ancient discoveries will fundamentally change how you see our species' journey. We will investigate a wooden statue twice as old as the pyramids and footprints that predate the very first humans. How much of our story is still waiting to be told, and what does it truly mean to be human carved from a single larchwood tree? The Shigir idol stands as a silent giant from a lost world. It was discovered in a peat bog in the Ural Mountains of Russia, a remarkable find preserved for over 12,000 years by the unique chemistry of the marsh. This towering wooden figure, originally over 5 meters tall, is the oldest known wooden sculpture on Earth, created by hunter-gatherers at the end of the last ice age. Its surface is a dense tapestry of geometric carvings, lines, and what appear to be human faces, a complex code from a time before written language. For decades, researchers believed such intricate symbolic thought was the product of later farming societies. The Shigir idol shatters that timeline entirely. Experts like archaeologist Thomas Turbiger propose that these patterns are not random decorations. They may represent an early cosmological map, a visual narrative of myths, spirits, and the structure of the universe as understood by its creators. The sheer skill required for this work, achieved with simple stone tools, speaks of a sophisticated cultural tradition, not a primitive one. What rituals did this figure preside over? Who were the people who looked upon its carved faces and saw their own beliefs reflected? The idol forces us to reconsider the inner lives of our ancient ancestors. It suggests that the human drive to create meaning, to represent our world and our place within it through art, is far more ancient and profound than we ever knew. This single artifact from a Russian bog reveals a rich spiritual tapestry woven by prehistoric minds, a complexity we are only just beginning to decipher. And as we look for more clues, our journey takes us from this mysterious forest to a sun-scorched desert, where an even older discovery lies waiting beneath the sand. Deep within a limestone cave on the Indonesian island of Flores, a discovery was made that seemed to rewrite our very definition of family. It was the skeleton of an adult individual, yet it was startlingly small, standing just over 3 feet tall with a brain roughly the size of a grapefruit. This was Homo floresiensis, a species quickly nicknamed the Hobbit, and its existence, dated to around 50,000 years ago, sent shockwaves through the world of anthropology. Here was a completely different kind of human, one that had lived and thrived in isolation on this island, while our own ancestors were spreading across the globe. The implications were staggering. How could such a small-brained hominin create the sophisticated stone tools found alongside its remains, tools used for hunting the miniature elephants that once roamed the island? This was not a simple, primitive creature. It was a testament to the incredible adaptability of the human form. Leading researchers like Professor Peter Brown have proposed 2 compelling theories to explain its origin. One suggests it descended from the much larger Homo erectus, undergoing a process called insular dwarfism, where large species shrink over generations to survive with limited resources on an island. The other, even more revolutionary idea posits that the Hobbit represents a much earlier, previously unknown migration out of Africa, a lineage that evolved in isolation for over 1 million years. The most haunting question of all is whether our own species, Homo sapiens, ever encountered these tiny people. The timelines suggest we shared the planet, and perhaps even this very island for a time. What would that meeting have been like? The discovery of Homo floresiensis shatters the old, linear view of human evolution, revealing a world that was once crowded with many different kinds of humans, each on their own unique journey. It proves that our family tree is far more like a tangled bush, with branches we are only just beginning to trace. And as if one island hobbit was not enough to reconsider our past, another Southeast Asian island was preparing to reveal another astonishing secret. A single, unassuming foot bone found deep within Caral Cave in the Philippines carried a secret that would reshape our family tree. This small fossil, part of the third discovery in our journey, belonged to an individual who lived at least 50,000 years ago, and it was unlike anything seen before. The bone, along with a handful of other fragments from the cave, was painstakingly analyzed and ultimately identified as a completely new species, Homo luzonensis. What made this species so startling was its mosaic of features, a blend of the very ancient and the relatively modern. The shape of the toe bones was curved, a physical trait often associated with a life spent climbing trees, a characteristic thought to have been left behind by much earlier ancestors. Yet other aspects of its anatomy were more advanced. This was not a straightforward ancestor, but a distinct branch on the human tree that had evolved in its own unique direction. Leading scientists, including Florent Detroit of the National Museum of Natural History in Paris, suggest this discovery points to a far more complex story of how early humans spread across the world. It implies there were multiple, separate migrations of different hominin species out of Africa and into the vastness of Asia, with some groups, like the creators of Homo luzonensis, reaching isolated islands. These ancient travelers likely crossed land bridges that were exposed during periods of lower sea levels, becoming marooned when the waters rose again. In these island laboratories, evolution worked in strange and wonderful ways, producing forms of humanity perfectly adapted to their specific environments. The stone tools and the remains of animals like a now extinct type of cattle found alongside the bones hint at a versatile lifestyle, one that may have combined climbing for safety or resources with hunting on the ground. Where does Homo luzonensis fit in our grand family portrait? Its exact phylogenetic relationships are still a puzzle, a question of how it connects to us, to Homo floresiensis, and to other ancient cousins. Its very existence forces us to abandon the simple picture of a single human species marching in a straight line toward modernity. Instead, we must embrace a world where for tens of thousands of years, many different kinds of humans shared the planet, each a unique experiment in what it means to be human. Did our own ancestors ever cross paths with the people of Luzon? We may never know what such an encounter would have been like, but the discovery confirms that the human genus was once a tapestry of incredible diversity, a diversity we are only just beginning to appreciate. This revelation in Asia compels us to look back to the very beginning, to the African continent where the first chapters of our story were written, and where a new find is pushing back the origins of humanity itself. The African continent, long considered our ancestral home, just revealed its story is far more complex than a single Garden of Eden. In a mine at Jebel Irhoud, Morocco, researchers uncovered a set of fossils that would fundamentally recalibrate the timeline of our own species. These ancient bones, dated to an astonishing 300,000 years ago, pushed back the origin of Homo sapiens by a full 100,000 years. This single discovery shattered the long-held belief that humanity arose exclusively in East Africa. The skulls themselves tell a fascinating story of mosaic evolution. They possess modern-looking faces that would not look entirely out of place today, yet they are coupled with longer, more archaic brain cases. This unique combination suggests that the features we recognize as distinctly human did not all appear at once, but evolved piecemeal across different populations. Leading paleoanthropologist Jean-Jacques Hublin, who led the research, emphasizes that this points to a pan-African development. Our emergence was not a sudden event in one small corner of the continent, but a gradual process woven together from multiple groups scattered across a vast African landscape. The evidence from the site supports this idea of advanced capability. Scientists used thermoluminescence dating on the stone tools found with the bones, tools that were expertly crafted using a method called levallois technique, which requires foresight and planning. They also found clear evidence of controlled fire use, indicating complex social behaviors and the ability to cook food and perhaps gather for warmth and protection. This sparks a profound debate. What truly defines an anatomically modern human? Is it the shape of the face or the capacity for the culture that created those tools? The Jebel Irhoud discovery forces us to ask a deeply personal question. If our lineage is the product of a whole continent, a tapestry of interconnected groups rather than one single tribe, how does that reshape our sense of identity and connection? It suggests that from our very beginning, diversity and dispersal were written into our DNA. This African revelation of a widespread origin story finds a powerful echo much later, on a different continent, where evidence of an unexpected encounter would add another layer to our complex ancestry. A single fragment of a finger bone, smaller than a thumbnail, was all it took to introduce an entirely new branch of the human family. This sliver of a pinky bone, unearthed from the frozen silence of Denisovan Cave in Siberia, held a secret locked away for 50,000 years. It was not from a Neanderthal, and it was not from one of our own Homo sapiens ancestors. Advanced genetic sequencing, pioneered by scientists like Svante Pääbo, revealed it belonged to a completely distinct population, now known as the Denisovans. This discovery did more than just add a name to our family tree. It fundamentally rewrote the story of our past using the language of DNA itself. The genetic data told a tale of ancient encounters and long-lost relationships. It showed that Denisovans not only coexisted with Neanderthals but also interbred with them, and crucially, with the modern human populations that were migrating across Asia. This mixing was not a rare event. It left a permanent mark on us. Today, people of Melanesian descent carry a significant percentage of Denisovan DNA, a genetic legacy that provided tangible benefits, such as adaptations that help the body use oxygen more efficiently, a trait crucial for survival at high altitudes in places like the Tibetan Plateau. Yet for such a profound discovery, the physical evidence is hauntingly sparse. Beyond that single finger bone and a few teeth, we have no complete skeletons, no skulls to tell us what the Denisovans truly looked like. Their entire identity has been pieced together from genetic code extracted from the cold cave floor. The artifacts found in the cave's deep layers, simple tools and ornaments, hint at a complex cultural landscape, but the people themselves remain ghosts, known only by the echo of their DNA in our own. This raises a staggering possibility. If an entire population can be discovered from a bone fragment in one cave, how many other branches of our family tree have vanished without leaving a single fossil behind? The story of human evolution is not just written in stone and bone, but in the very building blocks of life that we carry within us, a permanent record of a world that was once shared by many different kinds of people. This invisible genetic legacy stands in stark contrast to a very tangible discovery that speaks to the incredible courage and skill of our ancestors, a daring journey across the open ocean that began with a handful of stone tools. Etched into the sun-baked rock of a Greek island is a trail that defies our deepest assumptions. On the Mediterranean island of Crete, a set of fossilized footprints, preserved for 5.7 million years, presents a riddle that challenges the very map of human origins. These impressions, discovered in what was once a muddy coastal plain, look startlingly human. They show a non-opposable big toe in line with the other toes, a distinct ball of the foot, and a pattern of weight distribution that strongly suggests a bipedal gait. For decades, the dominant scientific narrative placed the cradle of humanity firmly in Africa, with our earliest ancestors taking their first upright steps on that continent's savannas. The Crete footprints, however, date from the late Miocene era, a time when the human family tree was just beginning to branch. Their existence in Europe forces a profound question. Did the journey to walking on two legs begin in more than one place? Leading researchers like Per Olberg have meticulously studied the prints, noting that while they bear a striking resemblance to later hominin tracks, their exact maker remains a mystery. The creature could have been an unknown type of primate that independently evolved a bipedal posture, a parallel experiment in locomotion that ultimately faded away. The geological context is crucial, as the sediments that captured these steps have been securely dated, confirming their immense age. This single trail of footsteps ignites a fierce and ongoing debate. Are we looking at the tracks of a true, early hominin that had dispersed from Africa far earlier than anyone believed possible? Or is this evidence of convergent evolution, where a different lineage of ape facing similar environmental pressures arrived at a similar two-legged solution? The implications ripple outward, suggesting the ancient world was a stage for multiple evolutionary experiments in what it meant to walk upright. If the capacity for bipedalism could arise outside of Africa, then the story of our origins is not a simple linear path but a web of possibilities, with lost chapters written on continents we never thought to look. This European enigma, a ghostly path from a lost world, compels us to look back to Africa, not for a simple answer, but for an even older beginning that deepens the mystery. Buried in the dust of Kenya, a collection of stones tells a story that begins long before our own genus even existed. At a site called Lomekwi, researchers unearthed stone tools that are a staggering 3.3 million years old. This was a time when the African landscape was dominated by hominins like Australopithecus, creatures best known for walking upright but not typically credited with sophisticated toolmaking. These are not the refined implements of later eras. They are heavy, crude cores and sharp flakes, bearing the unmistakable marks of intentional banging and purposeful flaking. The discovery, led by archaeologist Sonia Harmand, was revolutionary. It pushed back the timeline of technological invention by 700,000 years, suggesting that the spark of tool use was lit by minds far more ancient than we had ever imagined. This distinct technology, now called the Lomekwian, required a significant cognitive leap. It was not simply picking up a convenient rock. It involved selecting the right raw material, understanding its fracture properties, and striking it with just the right amount of force at just the right angle to detach a usable flake. The differences from the later, more famous Oldowan tools are telling. The Lomekwian tools are larger, heavier, and appear to have been made with a pounding or throwing technique against a stationary anvil stone, a process requiring considerable strength and coordination. The context of the find offers clues to their purpose. Fossilized animal bones found nearby, some with cut marks, suggest these tools were used for breaking open bones for marrow or for processing plant materials. This was not just about survival, it was about enhancing survival, about getting more nutritional value from their environment. What does this say about the evolution of intelligence? It suggests that planning, foresight, and the ability to manipulate the physical world to one's advantage are not exclusive to the genus Homo. these cognitive seeds were planted deep in our ancestral past, nurtured by earlier hominins who looked at a simple river cobble and saw within it the potential for a cutting edge. The capacity for culture for transmitting this knowledge from one generation to the next may be far older than our own species. The story of early technology, however, is only one side of our ancient minds. To understand the full picture, we must also search for the moment our ancestors first felt the urge not just to make a tool, but to make a mark, to create something beautiful for its own sake. Etched onto a small piece of red ochre, a simple set of cross-hatched lines speaks volumes. In the Blombos cave of South Africa, this seemingly modest artifact, dated to 73,000 years ago, holds the title of the oldest known drawing ever discovered. These geometric patterns, a series of deliberate lines scratched into the stone with an ochre crayon, predate the famous cave paintings of Europe by tens of thousands of years. This is not a random scratch, but a carefully executed design, evidence of a mind capable of abstract thought and symbolic representation. The significance of this discovery, championed by archaeologists like Professor Christopher Henshelwood, cannot be overstated. It tells us that the people who created this art possessed a modern cognitive capacity, an ability to use symbols to convey meaning, to communicate ideas that extended beyond the immediate needs of survival. This artistic impulse was part of a larger cultural package found within the cave's deep archaeological layers. Alongside the engraved ochre, researchers uncovered carefully perforated shell beads, likely strung together as jewelry or adornment. Such items are powerful indicators of identity and social complexity. They suggest these early humans were not only thinking symbolically, but were also using those symbols to define themselves within a group, to signal who they were and perhaps their status. This points toward a foundational element of our humanity, the capacity for language. The shared understanding required to assign meaning to a pattern or to a strand of beads implies a system of communication sophisticated enough to transmit culture from one generation to the next. Were these crosshatches a simple doodle, a maker's mark, or part of a larger ritual practice? We may never know their exact meaning, but their existence is what matters. They represent a spark of creativity that illuminates the ancient mind. This glimpse into the dawn of abstract thought forces a profound question. Is the drive to create art, to make our mark upon the world, a universal trait woven into the very fabric of what it means to be human? The evidence from Blombos cave suggests it is, revealing that long before we built cities or wrote histories, we were already telling stories in lines and symbols. This proof of a creative, symbolic mind in Africa sets the stage for an epic journey, as those same cognitive abilities would soon carry our ancestors across continents, pushing into lands no human had ever seen before. The soft mud of an ancient lakeshore in New Mexico captured a moment of profound importance, a moment frozen in time for over 21,000 years. These are the white sands footprints, a ghostly trail pressed into the earth by men, women, and children walking across a landscape shared with giant ground sloths and mammoths. For decades, the dominant story of the first Americans centered on the Clovis people, who were thought to have crossed a land bridge from Siberia around 13,000 years ago. The white sands evidence, meticulously dated using radiocarbon analysis of aquatic seeds embedded in the same layers as the footprints, shatters that timeline entirely. It proves human presence in North America millennia before the Clovis culture even emerged. Geologist Matthew Bennett and his team have studied these tracks not as isolated marks, but as a narrative. The footprints tell a story of daily life, showing paths where individuals sprinted, where a child's prints appear alongside an adult's, and where a traveler carefully set a toddler down for a moment. One compelling sequence even shows a person walking for almost a mile, their prints punctuated by the occasional dropping of a heavy object, suggesting a determined journey with a burden. This is not just evidence of presence, it is a portrait of a community. The implications ignite a fierce debate about how these first peoples arrived. Did they travel down the Pacific coast by boat, skirting the icy barriers that blocked inland routes, or did they find other, earlier passages through the continent? The white sands footprints force us to rewrite the opening chapter of the Americas, revealing a story of human resilience and adaptability that is far older and more complex than we ever knew. It was a world of giants and pioneers, a world we can now only trace through the fragile impressions they left behind. This tangible evidence of a lost daily life stands in stark contrast to the next discovery, a skeletal find that speaks not of a community's journey, but of a solitary and tragic encounter between two different kinds of humans. A single, partial skull from a cave in northern Israel carries the genetic memory of an ancient crossroads. Discovered in Manot Cave, this 55,000-year-old calvarium represents the first physical evidence of modern humans living in the Levant precisely at the time when geneticists tell us our ancestors were interbreeding with Neanderthals. The skull itself is a mosaic, possessing a distinctly modern, globular brain case but with subtle, archaic features in its brow ridge. This unique combination is exactly what researchers like anthropologist Israel Hershkovitz would expect to find in a population that was a product of such ancient encounters. It is a fossil that perfectly bridges the gap between DNA studies and the archaeological record, placing a face, however incomplete, to a pivotal moment in our shared history. The cave where it was found was no temporary shelter. Evidence of toolmaking and the remains of various animals point to a thriving base camp within a rich ecosystem. This was a community that knew how to live and prosper in this landscape, but this landscape was also home to others. Neanderthals were well established in the region, and the timing of this Homo sapiens presence suggests these two groups overlapped, sharing the same valleys and mountains for thousands of years. What were those interactions like? They were certainly not always peaceful, but genetic evidence tells us they were sometimes intimate. The descendants of those who lived in Manot Cave carried pieces of Neanderthal DNA forward, pieces that we still carry today, which provided immune system advantages and other adaptations that helped our species thrive in new environments. This was not a simple replacement of one people by another, but a complex interweaving of lineages. The Manot skull is a powerful reminder that we are, in a very real sense, the product of these forgotten meetings. Our biological and cultural heritage was shaped in the crucible of these encounters, a legacy of resilience and adaptation written into our very bones. This crucial evidence from a Middle Eastern crossroads now directs our attention to the vast expanse of Asia, where another site hints at an even more mysterious and distant hybrid potential. Two ancient skull caps found deep within a Chinese site present a puzzle that challenges our neat classifications. At Xuchang, fossils dating from 100,000 to 130,000 years ago reveal a startling mosaic of features. They possess large, rounded brain cases reminiscent of modern humans, yet the bone structure of the inner ear and the thick brow ridges echo characteristics of Neanderthals and even more archaic populations. This unique combination suggests these individuals may have been part of a previously unknown hybrid group, a population born from complex interbreeding in ancient East Asia. Leading researcher Li Zhenyong has noted the profound difficulty in placing these crania on a simple family tree, pointing instead to the genetic evidence of Denisovans in the region. Could these be the long-sought physical representatives of the Denisovans, a people we have so far known only from their DNA? The artifacts discovered alongside the skulls add to the intrigue. Stone tools and the bones of animals like horses and deer indicate these were not isolated wanderers but members of a community with the knowledge to hunt and craft, capable of thriving in a challenging environment. The fossils were dated using multiple methods, including uranium series dating on the surrounding calcite deposits, confirming their immense age. This discovery forces us to abandon the simple image of a family tree with straight, diverging branches. Instead, we must envision human evolution as a dense, tangled web where different groups met, mingled, and exchanged both genes and ideas. What does this incredible diversity tell us about our own identity? It suggests that the very concept of a pure, isolated lineage is a myth. Our past was a world of mixtures and encounters, a story written not in separate chapters but in a single, interconnected narrative. This evidence of ancient hybridity finds a powerful parallel in a discovery that speaks not of biology, but of pure, ingenious intellect, a technological leap that would change the course of history forever. 300,000 years ago, in the wetlands of what is now Germany, a team of hunters left behind their most vital tools. The Schöningen Spears are not crude pointed sticks, but a collection of sophisticated hunting weapons, the oldest ever discovered in the world. Carved from spruce and pine, these javelins are engineering marvels, their weight and balance meticulously calibrated for flight, their sharpened tips positioned at the heaviest end of the shaft, just like a modern competition javelin. This was not opportunistic scavenging. This was the product of foresight, skill, and coordinated strategy. The mastermind behind their discovery, archaeologist Hartmut Thiem, pieced together a dramatic scene from the evidence. The spears were found surrounded by the butchered remains of numerous wild horses scattered along an ancient lakeshore. This was not a single kill, but a repeated hunting ground, a place where early hominins, likely Homo heidelbergensis, executed complex plans to take down large, dangerous game. The preservation of the wood, saved for millennia in waterlogged sediment, offers an intimate look into their craft. We can see the stone tool cut marks from the shaping process, the selection of tough, straight-grained wood, and the wear patterns that speak of repeated use. This level of woodworking implies a deep knowledge of material properties and a tradition of skill passed down through generations. But the true revolution of Schöningen is social. To hunt a herd of horses successfully requires more than good weapons. It demands communication, trust, and a clear division of roles within the group. Some individuals may have acted as drivers, herding the panicked animals into a boggy trap, while others, the most skilled throwers, launched their spears from a safe distance. This cooperative endeavor suggests a social structure capable of planning for the future, a community that shared its food and its knowledge. In the harsh environments of Ice Age Europe, such sophisticated technology and social cooperation were not just advantageous, they were essential for survival. The Schöningen Spears stand as a powerful testament to the intellect and collaborative spirit of our ancient cousins, proving that the roots of human ingenuity and society run deep. This mastery of the landscape and its large animals demonstrates a new level of environmental control, but it pales in comparison to the next leap our ancestors would make, a leap that required them to conquer not the land but the sea itself. 44,000 years ago, an artist in an Indonesian cave mixed imagination with reality to create the world's first superheroes. On the island of Sulawesi, a sprawling panel of ochre-red paintings covers a limestone wall, depicting a vivid hunting scene unlike any other from its time. We see figures with human bodies but the heads of birds and other animals, known as the ryanthropes, wielding thin ropes or spears as they confront wild pigs and small buffalo. This is not just a record of a hunt, it is a narrative, a story woven from myth and memory, and at 44,000 years old, It is the oldest known example of figurative storytelling art on the planet. The discovery, dated using uranium series analysis of the mineral deposits that have formed over the paintings, fundamentally challenges a long-held belief that the dawn of such complex symbolic expression occurred exclusively in Europe. Archaeologist Maxime Aubert, who led the research, emphasizes that this sophisticated art indicates a rich spiritual life. The depiction of the Rhyanthropes suggests these early humans could conceive of beings that transcended the ordinary world, a concept central to shamanism and many religious beliefs where individuals can transform or take on animal spirits. This was more than decoration. It was a reflection of a shared cosmology, a way for a community to visualize its beliefs and pass them down. The tropical climate of Indonesia poses a severe threat to these ancient masterpieces, as increasing humidity and salt crystallization are causing the painted surfaces to flake away at an alarming rate. Each fading image is a race against time, a fragile window into a cognitive revolution. What does it mean that people on the other side of the world were telling such complex stories at a time when Europe's caves were largely silent? It reveals that the human impulse for narrative, for explaining our place in the world through myth and metaphor, is a universal and deeply ancient trait. This artistic spark in Indonesia did not exist in a vacuum. It was part of a creative explosion that hints at a much larger, interconnected world of early human culture, a world that was about to reveal one of its most spectacular and organized societies. A windswept hilltop in southeastern Turkey holds the ruins of a sanctuary that rewrites the first chapter of civilization. Göbekli Tepe, a complex of massive stone circles erected over 11,000 years ago, stands as a profound mystery. Its builders were not farmers living in a settled village, but nomadic hunter-gatherers who roamed a world still emerging from the last ice age. Yet they accomplished a staggering feat of engineering, carving and transporting 20-ton limestone pillars, then arranging them into great stone circles. These are not simple markers. The pillars are shaped like giant letter Ts, many engraved with a breathtaking menagerie of foxes, scorpions, vultures, and other creatures, a stone tapestry of symbols from a forgotten belief system. For decades, the accepted narrative was clear. The invention of agriculture allowed for surplus food, which then gave people the free time and social organization to build temples and develop complex religion. Göbekli Tepe turns this idea completely on its head. Here, the temple came first. The late excavator Klaus Schmidt proposed a revolutionary theory that the need to build and maintain this sacred place, to gather for rituals and feed the workers, may have been the catalyst that encouraged people to settle down and eventually learn to farm. The architecture itself speaks of a society far more complex than we credited to this era. The pillars were quarried from a nearby bedrock, then moved, likely with wooden rollers and ropes, up the hill to the site. This was not a small family project. It would have required a large, coordinated labor force, a communal effort that implies social hierarchy, shared purpose, and sophisticated planning skills. There is no evidence of a permanent village at the site, no houses or hearths for daily life. This was a place of pilgrimage, a ritual center drawing people from across the region. Why was it so deliberately buried around 8000 BC, filled in with earth and stone to create an artificial hill, an act that ironically preserved it for millennia? Was it a ceremonial closing, a way to retire a sacred space? The intricate iconography, from the predatory birds to the coiled snakes, hints at a rich mythology, a spiritual world where humans and animals were deeply interconnected. What powerful belief could compel hunter-gatherers to undertake such a monumental task, to build a cathedral before they had even built a city? Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider the very engines of social change. suggesting that the human need to gather, to believe, and to create meaning may have been the original spark that lit the flame of civilization. This Turkish enigma of a spiritual gathering place finds a fascinating parallel across the ocean, where another ancient site, built with equal mystery, rises from the Peruvian desert. Far to the south, in the rainy lowlands of Chile, a waterlogged peat bog preserved a moment in time so perfectly it feels as though the inhabitants have only just stepped away. This is Monte Verde, a settlement dating back 14,500 years, a place that single-handedly rewrote the timeline of the Americas. Here, archaeologists led by Tom Dillehay uncovered the remains of a small community, not just stone tools, but an entire world preserved in the acidic, oxygen-poor peat. They found the wooden frames of simple huts still standing as silent outlines. They uncovered hearths lined with clay, the charcoal from ancient fires still dark. They even recovered a chunk of mastodon meat, preserved alongside the wooden lances used in the hunt, and a single footprint left in the soft clay by a child who lived there millennia ago. This was not a temporary camp, it was a home. The sheer intimacy of the finds is what makes Monte Verde so revolutionary. We know they built their structures from wood and animal hides, creating a long, tent-like dwelling that housed multiple families. We know their diet was diverse and sophisticated, including potatoes, wild vegetables, and seafood brought from the Pacific coast over 30 miles away. Perhaps most touching is the discovery of chewed leaves from a medicinal plant found near one of the hearths, offering a quiet glimpse into their knowledge of healing and the challenges of daily life. The radiocarbon dating of this organic material was irrefutable, confirming a human presence in South America more than 1,000 years before the Clovis culture emerged in North America. This evidence ended a decades-long scientific debate, forcing a complete revision of how and when people first arrived. Monte Verde's existence lends powerful support to the coastal migration theory. It suggests that the first peoples may have navigated the Pacific coastline in boats, moving swiftly down the continent and exploiting rich marine resources long before they ever ventured deep into the continental interior. Their ability to adapt to such a wide range of environments, from the coastline to the forests, speaks to a remarkable flexibility and a deep understanding of their world. What does this vibrant, well-preserved settlement tell us about these pioneering communities? It reveals them not as desperate wanderers, but as resilient, knowledgeable people who built homes, cared for their families, and thrived in a new land. This American portrait of a settled, resourceful life finds a fascinating echo in a much older discovery, one that reveals a similar spark of ingenuity on a different continent, where our ancestors first learned to transform their world with fire. Deep within the ashes of South Africa's Border Cave, a simple, charred fragment tells a revolutionary story. This is not a tool or a weapon, but the remains of a meal, a starchy rhizome from a plant like the African potato, deliberately roasted in a controlled fire 170,000 years ago. It is the oldest known cooked food ever discovered, and it reveals a culinary tradition far more ancient than we ever imagined. The presence of these charred vegetables from the genus Hypoxis, alongside layers of ash and simple tools, points to a routine practice. This was not a one-time accident. It was a planned, habitual act of cooking. Leading archaeologist Lynn Wadley emphasizes that this process required a deep, accumulated knowledge. Someone had to understand which underground parts of which plants were edible, how to dig them up, and then how to manage a fire with the precise, low heat needed to roast them thoroughly without burning them to cinders. This is a significant cognitive leap beyond simply tossing a piece of meat into the flames. It speaks to foresight, an understanding of chemistry, and a sophisticated dietary strategy. The nutritional implications are profound. Cooking transforms tough, fibrous rhizomes, making their starches more digestible and unlocking a far greater number of calories. This efficient energy source could have been crucial for supporting larger, more complex brains, potentially fueling the very cognitive evolution that defines our species. But the impact of this discovery goes far beyond biology. Picture the scene: a community gathered around a hearth in the mouth of a cave, sharing warm, roasted vegetables. This act of cooking would have strengthened social bonds, creating a focal point for storytelling, teaching, and the sharing of knowledge from one generation to the next. It marks a fundamental shift from mere consumption to the creation of a shared culture centered on the hearth. How did this simple, daily ritual of preparing food together help forge the cooperative societies that would eventually span the globe? This evidence of ancient culinary skill reveals a people deeply connected to their environment, masters of fire and food. And if they possessed the knowledge to provision themselves so effectively from the land, what other frontiers were they prepared to conquer? This mastery over their immediate world hints at an even greater ambition, one that would require them to build not with fire, but with reeds and wood, to venture across a new and formidable expanse, the open sea. A single set of footprints pressed into the mud of an ancient lake shore tells a story of a journey we are only just beginning to understand. In the heart of Saudi Arabia's Nefud desert, a place now defined by endless sand, researchers uncovered the trails left by humans 85,000 years ago. These are not isolated marks, but multiple pathways of footprints, including those of adults and children, preserved in a stone-like layer of sediment. They walked across the soft ground of a vibrant wetland, a landscape teeming with hippos, elephants, and freshwater, a stark contrast to the arid emptiness of today. This discovery, championed by paleontologist Michael Petraglia, fundamentally rewrites the map of our species' first great migration out of Africa. It proves that early Homo sapiens did not simply creep along the coastlines, but boldly ventured deep into the interior of Arabia, following green corridors that bloomed during periods of shifting climate. The stone tools scattered nearby, resembling the classic Acheulean hand axes, speak of repeated occupation, not a single, desperate trek. These were people who knew this land, who hunted its animals and relied on its lakes, settling there for generations during windows of opportunity when the rains returned. Scientists used a technique called luminescence, dating on the sand grains themselves, measuring when they were last exposed to sunlight to confirm the incredible age of these footprints. What does this tell us about the character of these early explorers? Their success was not a matter of luck, but a testament to a profound adaptability, an ability to read the signs of a changing world and move with its rhythms. They were not just surviving, they were thriving in landscapes that would later become some of the most forbidding on Earth. This evidence of an inland passage through a green Arabia forces a thrilling question. If deserts can hide such lush, forgotten worlds in their depths, what other chapters of the human journey are still buried beneath the sand, waiting for the right moment to be revealed? This proof of overland migration through a changing continent finds its logical continuation in the next great challenge our ancestors faced, a challenge that required them to leave the land behind entirely and conquer the open ocean. The vast expanse of the Wallasian Islands presented a formidable barrier, a chain of stepping stones scattered between Asia and Australia that were never connected by land. To reach the distant southern continent, our ancestors had to conquer the sea itself. On islands like Timor and Sulawesi, stone tools and the butchered remains of animals like the giant rat and the Komodo dragon, dated to over 40,000 years ago, tell a story of deliberate, skilled voyaging. These were not accidental castaways, but pioneers who set out across the open ocean with purpose. Leading archaeologist Sue O'Connor argues that these journeys required more than simple rafts. They demanded sophisticated watercraft, perhaps outrigger canoes capable of carrying people, tools, and supplies for a multi-day journey. This was an undertaking that required high-level planning, a deep understanding of wind and current patterns, and immense social cooperation to build the vessels and navigate the treacherous waters. The evidence points to a planned colonization effort. The discovery of obsidian, a volcanic glass prized for its sharp edges, on islands far from its geological source is particularly telling. This material could only have arrived through travel or trade, hinting at the earliest maritime networks where knowledge and resources were exchanged across the waves. Consider the oceanographic challenges they faced, crossing deep water channels where the view of the opposite shore would vanish for days, navigating solely by the stars and the swell of the ocean. Genetic studies of modern indigenous Australian populations provide powerful support for this timeline, confirming a deep ancestry that aligns perfectly with these ancient seafaring migrations. What powerful drive compelled these early humans to risk everything and sail into the unknown? Was it a search for new hunting grounds, population pressure, or simply an unquenchable human curiosity to see what lay beyond the horizon? These voyages were one of the most significant expansions in human history, pushing the boundaries of our species' range to an entirely new continent and proving that the spirit of exploration is etched into our very DNA. This epic journey across the ocean reveals a new level of human ambition, but it pales in comparison to the societal complexity that was simultaneously emerging in one particular corner of the globe, where an ancient metropolis was rising from the plains. 5,000 years ago, a city of pyramids rose from the dry plains of the Peruvian desert. This is Caral, the heart of the Caral Civilization, and the oldest known center of its kind in the Americas. While the Egyptians were building their first pyramids, the people of Caral were constructing their own monumental complex, a sprawling metropolis of sunken circular plazas, residential quarters, and 6 large pyramidal structures. The sophistication of this site, discovered and brought to light by archaeologist Ruth Shady, forces us to reconsider the very definition of civilization. Here was a complex, highly organized society that flourished for centuries, yet it appears to have developed without 2 elements we often consider fundamental: pottery and, most strikingly, any evidence of warfare. No fortifications, no weapons, no depictions of conflict have been found. Instead, the culture was built on a foundation of agriculture, fed by irrigated fields in the nearby Soup Valley, and a robust maritime economy that harvested the rich bounty of the Pacific Ocean. The discovery of trading goods, like shells from the coast and precious materials from the jungle, points to a vast network of exchange and influence that stretched across the region. The city itself was a feat of urban planning, with its buildings aligned with celestial bodies, suggesting a deep understanding of astronomy that guided both their rituals and their agricultural calendar. Among the most intriguing artifacts are the quipu, intricate systems of knotted strings that scholars believe were used for recording information, a sophisticated form of data storage using cords instead of clay tablets. How did such a complex society coordinate its labor and record its knowledge without a system of writing as we know it? The quipu hints at a different path to complexity, one rooted in tactile and mathematical logic. The eventual abandonment of Caral around 4,000 years ago remains a subject of study, with researchers suggesting environmental shifts, including prolonged drought, may have led people to disperse to other valleys. The story of Caral stands as a powerful testament to the universality of the human drive to build, to organize, and to create meaning, even when that path unfolds in complete isolation from the rest of the world. It proves that urbanism and civilization are not a single invention to be spread, but a potential that can be independently realized by human communities anywhere on the planet. This portrait of a peaceful, organized society in the New World invites a comparison to an Old World discovery that reveals a different kind of challenge faced by our ancestors, one written not in stone monuments, but in the silent testimony of ancient bones. Deep within a mountain in northern Spain, a vertical shaft descends into silent darkness. This is the Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of Bones, a place that holds the single greatest collection of ancient human fossils ever found. Here, the remains of at least 28 individuals lay undisturbed for 430,000 years, creating a stunningly complete portrait of a population that likely stands at the very root of the Neanderthal lineage. The sheer volume of bones is not the only mystery. It is their location at the bottom of a difficult 13-meter shaft, far from the cave entrance. This was not a place for daily life, and the accumulation was almost certainly not a natural one. The leading theory, championed by paleoanthropologist Juan Luis Arzuaga, is that this represents the oldest known funerary site in the world, a place where the dead were intentionally and carefully placed by the living. This single act, repeated over generations, speaks of something profound, a deep sense of empathy and social connection that transcended the individual's passing. It suggests these ancient people possessed a concept of an afterlife, or at the very least, a powerful ritual need to treat their community members with respect even after death. The bones themselves tell stories of a hard life in the Middle Pleistocene. They reveal healed fractures, signs of serious illness, and the dental wear of a tough, abrasive diet. One famous skull, Cranium 14, shows devastating injuries that would have left the individual blind and with a drastically altered appearance. Yet the evidence of healing indicates the group cared for this person for a long time, providing food and protection. This level of compassion, found in such a distant era, reshapes our understanding of their social world. The site is not without its debates. Could a natural disaster or carnivores have brought the bones here? Most researchers find the evidence for intentional disposal far more compelling, especially given the near-complete absence of other animal remains. Further insight came from mitochondrial DNA analysis, a genetic study that confirmed the individuals were closely related, part of a small, tight-knit community. What does this ancient pit tell us about the journey of the human mind? It marks a pivotal moment in our cognitive evolution, the dawn of a ritual awareness that separated the realm of the living from the realm of the dead. This emergent sense of mortality and community foreshadows the complex spiritual beliefs and cultural practices that would come to define later human societies. It reveals that long before we built monuments, we built memorials in the quiet depths of the earth. This profound evidence of early ritual and identity finds a fascinating parallel in a much later discovery, one that reveals how our ancestors began to express their individual identity through personal adornment. Carved from the tusk of a mammoth, a tiny figure emerges from the shadows of a German cave. The whole fell's Venus, just over 2 inches tall, is the oldest known representation of a human form in the world, dating back 40,000 years. Her shape is a powerful statement, with dramatically emphasized breasts, hips, and genitalia, while her head is a mere nub, replaced by a carefully carved ring so the figurine could be worn as a pendant. This was not an attempt at realistic portraiture, but a deliberate abstraction, a symbol of something deeply important to the people who created her. Archaeologist Nicholas Conard, who discovered the Venus, suggests she reflects a profound cultural focus on womanhood, fertility, and the very miracle of life and survival in a challenging Ice Age world. The skill required to carve such a detailed object from hard mammoth ivory using only simple stone tools is itself a testament to a sophisticated artistic tradition. She was not found in isolation. Within the same cave layers, researchers uncovered flutes made from bird bone and ivory, suggesting a place where music, art, and ritual intersected. This points to a rich cultural life where symbolic expression was woven into the very fabric of daily existence. How did such a small object transmit the values of an entire society? She may have been a teaching tool, a ritual object for ceremonies, or a personal amulet carrying powerful meaning for the individual who wore her. When we compare her to the more famous, later Venus figurines found across Europe, we see a shared symbolic language spanning thousands of years, a continuity of belief that connected distant communities. The creation of the whole Fels Venus marks a pivotal moment in our cognitive journey, when the human mind began to shape abstract concepts into tangible form, using art to explore the most fundamental forces of life. This profound artistic expression in Europe finds a startling parallel across the Atlantic, where a new discovery is challenging everything we thought we knew about the first human footsteps in the Americas. High in the arid mountains of northern Mexico, a cave entrance overlooks a vast, empty landscape. Within the deep, cold layers of Xuchang Cave, archaeologists made a discovery that pushes the timeline of the Americas into uncharted territory. Here, buried under meters of sediment, lay thousands of stone tools, each one a silent witness to a human presence dating back 26,000 to 30,000 years. This was not a single campsite, but evidence of a place returned to again and again over millennia, a high-altitude refuge during the brutal swings of the last ice age. The lead researcher, Cyprian Ardelian, describes the tools as unique, a distinct technology not clearly linked to any later culture. They are mostly slender flakes of limestone and chert, carefully worked into scrapers and blades, suggesting a people adept at processing plants, hides, or wood. The cave itself, situated at an elevation of over 2,700 meters, would have been a strategic shelter, offering protection from the harsh elements and a vantage point for monitoring game in the valleys below. The dating of the site is a story of scientific rigor and controversy. Researchers used both radiocarbon dating on fragments of charcoal and organic material, and luminescence dating, which measures when the sediment layers were last exposed to sunlight. These methods consistently pointed to the same immense age, creating a timeline that stands in stark contrast to the traditional Clovis first model. Yet a profound mystery remains. Despite the overwhelming number of tools, not a single human fossil has been found in the cave. There are no bones, no teeth, no physical trace of the people who crafted these artifacts. This absence forces us to ask, who were they? How does their existence, hinted at only by their stone tools, fit with the genetic story of the first Americans, which largely points to a later arrival? One compelling theory suggests these could represent a lost founding population, an early wave of migration that ultimately left no genetic legacy in modern indigenous peoples, perhaps dying out in the face of climatic extremes. Another possibility is that they are the elusive ancestors of those later groups, their genetic signature simply not yet identified. The Xuchang evidence does not stand alone. It joins a growing list of sites across the Americas, from White Sands to Monte Verde, that collectively paint a picture of a human story far more complex and ancient than a single migration event 13,000 years ago. It suggests a continent explored in fits and starts by different peoples at different times, some thriving and some vanishing, leaving behind only the barest clues of their passage. This American enigma, a cave full of tools but empty of people, brings our journey full circle, back to the African continent where the very first sparks of technology were struck millions of years earlier. A silent river cobble resting in the East African landscape for 2.6 million years holds the first clear signature of a mind that could reshape the world. This is the dawn of the Oldowan tool industry, the oldest technology we can widely trace in the archaeological record, marking the true beginning of our cultural evolution. At sites like Gona in Ethiopia, early hominins, perhaps the first members of our own genus Homo, or even the robust Australopithecines, began a revolution with a simple act, striking one stone against another with precise force. The goal was not the core itself, but the sharp, razor-edged flakes that flew off, creating instant cutting tools, while the remaining core could be used as a heavy hammer or smashing tool. This was not random bashing, it was a planned reduction sequence, a mental blueprint for turning a raw rock into a versatile toolkit. Paleoanthropologist Sulawesi Cave work highlights the foresight in this process, from selecting the right type of stone to understanding the angle of each strike to maximize the useful edge. These tools are rarely found alone. They are often discovered alongside the bones of ancient animals, bones that bear the unmistakable cut marks of butchering and the crushing impacts of marrow extraction. This evidence points to a major dietary shift, the incorporation of meat and fat, whether from hunting or scavenging, providing a dense, high-energy resource that may have been crucial for fueling the expansion of our ancestors' brains. The success of this simple but effective technology was so profound that it spread like wildfire. From its East African heartland, the Oldowan toolkit traveled with its makers, moving across the continent and eventually into the vastness of Eurasia, a testament to its utility and the increasing mobility of early humans. This was not a static invention. It evolved over more than 1 million years, with techniques slowly refined and adapted to new environments and new challenges. How did this constant interaction with tools, this daily practice of problem solving and planning, rewire the hominin brain? It likely drove the development of finer motor control and advanced cognitive capacities, including the ability to teach and learn complex skills. This transmission of knowledge from one generation to the next, the birth of a true cultural tradition, would have forged stronger social bonds and more cooperative groups. The foundational act of making an Oldowan tool, of seeing potential in a simple stone, set our ancestors on a path of increasing technological and social complexity. Yet this mastery over the physical world, this ability to cut and crush, represents only one side of our ancient heritage. The full picture of the human mind would remain incomplete until we found evidence of a different kind of breakthrough. Not a tool for survival, but a creation for meaning, a discovery that revealed the moment we began to decorate our world. 60,000 years ago, someone carefully held an ostrich eggshell water flask, its surface a canvas for their thoughts. At the Deep Kloof rock shelter in South Africa, hundreds of fragments of these engraved eggshells tell a story not of grand cave walls, but of personal expression woven into the fabric of daily survival. These were not random scratches. The surfaces are covered in deliberate, repeated geometric patterns, primarily cross-hatchings and parallel lines, a consistent visual language applied across many different containers over generations. Leading researcher Pierre-Jean Texier and his team argue this represents the earliest known example of graphic design on a portable object, a symbolic system that moved with people. The engravings were made using sharp stone engravers, and the patterns show microscopic wear, proving these were functional items carried, used, and refilled, their designs fading with a life of service. The excavation context is crucial, as the fragments were found in distinct layers alongside tools and food remains, allowing scientists to build a precise timeline of this artistic tradition, which endured for thousands of years. How do we interpret these simple lines? They likely served as markers of identity, denoting ownership by an individual, a family, or a specific band. In a world without written language, these patterns were a powerful form of communication, a way of saying, "This belongs to us." This practice hints at a need for social cohesion and a system of information storage that transcended the individual memory. When we compare these engravings to the slightly older abstract art from Blombos cave, we see a continent-wide emergence of symbolic thought, but the deep kloof eggshells ground this revolution in the everyday. They show us that the human drive to mark our world, to imbue even the most utilitarian objects with meaning, is an ancient and fundamental part of who we are. This intimate connection between art and survival reveals a deep-seated need for order and identity, a cognitive leap that allowed our ancestors to build more complex and resilient societies. From these personal artifacts that moved across the landscape, our final discovery shifts to a much larger canvas, revealing how entire civilizations learned to read the rhythms of the world itself to ensure their survival. At the southern tip of Africa, where the cliffs meet the sea, a series of caves hold the secrets to a pivotal survival strategy. The pinnacle point sites reveal a community from 160,000 years ago that did not just endure, they thrived by turning to the ocean. Within these caves, archaeologists like Curtis Marion uncovered vast middens, ancient garbage heaps filled with the shells of mussels, limpets, and other shellfish. These were not occasional snacks, but the foundation of a stable, nutrient-rich diet harvested from the rocky shores. This reliable food source, packed with fatty acids crucial for brain development, may have been the key that unlocked a new chapter of human resilience. The evidence points to a life of sophisticated routine. Carefully constructed hearths show the controlled use of fire, likely for cooking their marine harvest and for social gathering. Pieces of red ochre, some showing signs of grinding to create a powder, suggest these people were engaging in symbolic behavior, perhaps adorning themselves or their tools with color. But the most startling technological leap was in their toolmaking. They were heat-treating a local stone called silcrete. By carefully heating the rock in their fires, they could transform its structure, making it easier to flake into sharper, more efficient tools. This process is not simple. It requires precise control over temperature and timing, a clear sign of advanced cognitive skills, and the deliberate transmission of complex knowledge. These coastal foragers were living through a period of dramatic climate shifts, when much of Africa's interior was dry and inhospitable. The sea level itself rose and fell, repeatedly changing the shape of the coastline they relied upon. Their ability to adapt to this changing interface between land and sea, to read the tides and understand the rhythms of the marine world, provided a crucial refuge. This coastal corridor, with its abundant and predictable resources, may have served as a green, or rather blue, highway. It could have supported growing populations and facilitated their eventual dispersal out of Africa, carrying this adaptable coastal lifestyle with them to new continents. How did this intimate relationship with the sea shape the human mind? The cognitive challenges of tracking tidal cycles, navigating coastal terrain, and innovating new technologies like heat treatment would have honed planning, observation, and social learning to a fine edge. This final discovery brings our journey full circle, from the first sparks of technology to the sophisticated coastal adaptation that helped our ancestors conquer the globe. Each of these 25 discoveries is a piece of a grand, interconnected puzzle. They show us that our story is not a straight, predictable line, but a vibrant tapestry of experimentation, resilience, and unexpected connections. We have seen a world once filled with many different kinds of humans, each a unique branch on our family tree. We have witnessed the ancient dawn of art, technology, and compassion, forces that propelled us forward. These missing chapters, now being restored, teach us that the essence of being human is not defined by a single origin point or a linear path. It is found in our enduring capacity to adapt, to create, to cooperate, and to explore, no matter the challenges we face. The story of human evolution is ultimately a celebration of our shared and astonishing journey. These 25 discoveries, scattered across every inhabited continent, form a single, breathtaking mosaic. Each artifact, each fossil, each footprint is a piece of a far grander narrative than we ever conceived. A story defined not by a single origin point, but by a powerful current of diversity, adaptability, and shared ingenuity. The old image of a lonely caveman on a linear march to modernity has been utterly dismantled. In its place, we see a world teeming with different kinds of people, from the tiny hobbits of Flores to the enigmatic Denisovans of Siberia, each a unique experiment in what it means to be human. Our past was a world of repeated meetings and partings, of migrations that pulsed across continents and islands, driven by a relentless curiosity. Genetic evidence now confirms what the bones have long hinted at, that our ancestors did not simply replace other hominins, but often met, mingled, and interbred, weaving their lineages into the very fabric of our own DNA. This intricate tapestry reveals that cooperation and storytelling, as thinkers like Yuval Noah Harari suggest, were not just beneficial traits but the foundational pillars of our success. The ability to share knowledge, to plan a mammoth hunt at Schöningen, to coordinate the construction of Göbekli Tepe, or to encode meaning on an ostrich eggshell at Diepkloof, allowed early human groups to overcome challenges that would have been insurmountable for any individual. The timeline of innovation stretches back millions of years, with the Lomekwian stone tools proving the spark of technology was lit long before our own genus walked the earth, while the Blombos cave engravings and the Sulawesi rock art reveal that the fires of symbolic thought and narrative burned brightly across the globe. This convergence of genetics, archaeology, and paleontology has filled immense gaps in our understanding, yet for every question answered, a dozen new mysteries emerge. Who were the people of Xuchang Cave, and why have they left no other trace? What beliefs were encoded on the towering Shigir idol? The story of human evolution is not a straight line with a clear destination, but a great branching tree, and we are only now discovering how many of its limbs were lost to time. As we stand at this new horizon of understanding, we are left to wonder what future excavations will uncover. What other chapters of our shared journey are still hidden, waiting in the earth, the ice, or the deep sea, to challenge everything we think we know about ourselves? These 25 discoveries, scattered across every inhabited continent, form a single, breathtaking mosaic. Each artifact, each fossil, each footprint is a piece of a far grander narrative than we ever conceived. A story defined not by a single origin point, but by a powerful current of diversity, adaptability, and shared ingenuity. The old image of a lonely caveman on a linear march to modernity has been utterly dismantled. In its place, we see a world teeming with different kinds of people, from the tiny hobbits of Flores to the enigmatic Denisovans of Siberia, each a unique experiment in what it means to be human. Our past was a world of repeated meetings and partings, of migrations that pulsed across continents and islands, driven by a relentless curiosity. Genetic evidence now confirms what the bones have long hinted at, that our ancestors did not simply replace other hominins, but often met, mingled, and interbred, weaving their lineages into the very fabric of our own DNA. This intricate tapestry reveals that cooperation and storytelling were not just beneficial traits but the foundational pillars of our success. The ability to share knowledge, to plan a mammoth hunt at Schöningen, to coordinate the construction of Göbekli Tepe, or to encode meaning on an ostrich eggshell at Diepkloof, allowed early human groups to overcome challenges that would have been insurmountable for any individual. The timeline of innovation stretches back millions of years, with the Lomekwian stone tools proving the spark of technology was lit long before our own genus walked the earth, while the Blombos cave engravings and the Sulawesi rock art reveal that the fires of symbolic thought and narrative burned brightly across the globe. This convergence of genetics, archaeology, and paleontology has filled immense gaps in our understanding, yet for every question answered, a dozen new mysteries emerge. Who were the people of Sulawesi Cave, and why have they left no other trace? What beliefs were encoded on the towering Shigir idol? The story of human evolution is not a straight line with a clear destination, but a great branching tree, and we are only now discovering how many of its limbs were lost to time. As we stand at this new horizon of understanding, we are left to wonder what future excavations will uncover. What other chapters of our shared journey are still hidden, waiting in the earth, the ice, or the deep sea, to challenge everything we think we know about ourselves? We would love to hear which of these discoveries reshaped your own view of our past. Was it the ancient courage of the first sailors, or the profound compassion in the pit of bones? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey, subscribe for more explorations into history's greatest mysteries. Thank you for watching, and may your curiosity for the stories still buried